Hello, everyone. I am Yolanda, co-founder of Harper Therapy, and boy, does it feel like we are living in a completely different world than a week ago or the last time we went live. So there's been a lot going on with COVID-19, the coronavirus, social distancing, um, pandemics, economic crisis, just a lot of stuff going on. It seems like the world has kind of turned upside down and really quickly. So I wanted to share some thoughts about what's going on with our brains and our bodies and our responses to the situation that's going on. So it's important to remember that it's our brain's job to keep us alive and to keep us safe. Our brain's job is safety, security, and certainty. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of that going on right now. So when our brain perceives a threat, like all of the situations that are going on right now, then the brain triggers the stress response and that fight, flight, freeze response. So in theory, that's meant to keep us alive and safe. However, in these types of especially ongoing situations, when it doesn't turn off, it's not the stress response isn't meant to be triggered and stay on. It's meant to be triggered so that we can take action to protect ourselves, make ourselves safe, and then come back to calm. So the ongoing stress is especially difficult. And one of the biggest challenges with that is that it actually compromises our immune systems and sets us up for being the potential to become sick. So we want to do what we can do to acknowledge that our nervous system, our brains, our bodies, this combination is dysregulated, and we are feeling that up and down through our bodies, and we want to take some action to bring our bodies and our nervous systems back into regulation. And one of the primary things that we can do, a tool that's always with us, but that we forget that we have, is to breathe. And so many of us, when we are under stress, when there's so much going on, we hold our breath, we forget to breathe. So, and if we are breathing, it's short, shallow breaths. So just a reminder, let's take those full breaths. We want the breath to go into the body. We want to feel our bellies move and take those big, long, deep breaths and count to 10. Now, I know it sounds kind of cliche. It's not like, hey, let's all just breathe and everything will go away. It's, hey, let's breathe. That helps to bring the prefrontal cortex back online so that we can think more clearly and take clear-headed action. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, and these are just tips for today. We'll continue to share some thoughts, share some information about how to maintain emotional, mental well-being, maintain our relationship well-being as we go through this together, because we're not alone. None of us are alone going through this. The second tip for today is to engage in some form of bilateral stimulation. Bilateral stimulation means left-right movement in the body that helps engage left-right movement in the brain that's naturally calming to the nervous system. It's one of the reasons why we pace when we're nervous. So we can engage some bilateral stimulation for our benefit, whether that is a walk, a run. A lot of us have a lot of pent up, built up, anxious energy that needs to be released. So a walk and a run would be helpful to release that and to calm the nervous system. Other modes of bilateral stimulation are things like binaural beats. And you can look that up on YouTube. You put some headphones in. There are different tones that play on each side of the headphones. Again, that's very calming to the nervous system. Other things that you might find calming to your nervous system, whether that be a cup of tea, whether that be petting the dog. That's one of the reasons that I have the dogs around. Whatever is calming to your specific nervous system, any tools that are helpful for you use those in abundance during this time. Another thing that we can be aware of is the mental chatter that happens. And a lot of times, understandably, with us trying to figure out and make sense of what's going on in the world, our brains are in overdrive, trying to plan, trying to problem solve, trying to find some certainty in a lot of uncertain situations. So planning is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that planning isn't important. We need to have a plan in place. Obviously, there are things that we need to take into account. However, a lot of us can automatically go down the rabbit trail and into rumination and spinning thoughts on a hamster wheel without even realizing it. So it is checking in with what those thoughts are and just pausing and asking ourselves, is this helpful? Is this thought helpful? Is this planning helpful? Right? Especially with a lot of new information. Is it helpful for me to consume a lot of media right now, a lot of news coverage, or would it be more helpful for me to put some limits around certain times of the day to check in with what the latest status of things is? So is this helpful? And that's the difference. When our nervous system is dysregulated, we can really easily shift from being alert and aware or vigilant into hypervigilance. And a lot of us feel that hypervigilance is more helpful, but hypervigilance narrows the focus to the point where we're not able to really be in a prefrontal cortex problem solving state. It's harder for us to problem solve. It's harder for us to really get a clear understanding of what's going on in our environment when we're super hyper focused on one specific thing. So ask yourself the question, is this helpful? Okay, so those are just 3 thoughts for today. We'll keep coming back with some different thoughts and tips on how to walk through this together as a community, to know that we've got each other's backs, and to just remind each other that we'll get through this. So everyone be safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk soon.